Hi everybody. This is the first in our series of Normal for 2020 business reactions and interviews with lots of different businesses around the county of Norfolk. My name is Tom Caulfield. I'm an agricultural partner at Arnold's Quays, and I've got Mark Mayhew, commercial partner, with me here. We're delighted to say that we are here with Ian Greenfield of Production Bureau today. Ian, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Ian, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and firstly, just what you do, please?
So, Ian Greenfield, I'm the owner and founder of Production Bureau. I set up the business in 1989. We are a creative agency that specialises in staging live events, which includes conferences, exhibitions, hospitality areas. And as you can imagine, currently, I'm facing a few challenges with my business.
I imagine you are. What are the main crises and has that sort of changed the business practice quite dramatically, I imagine?
Yes, it has dramatically. So back in March, thankfully, we've been a very successful business. We stage events all over the world. Last year, we staged over 300 conferences, built 50 exhibition stands around the world. And back in March, I watched as my calendar, the project calendar that we have in the business, which we run as a traffic light system, turned from green, very positive signs of staging lots of events. It turned from green to amber, and then sadly to red, and then one after another. The events that we had booked for this year have been cancelled. My predicted turnover probably went to about 60% of what it was previously going to be. And it had a devastating effect on the business.
Crikey, that's really considerable, Ian. So obviously that's meant that you've had to implement some changes, in order to keep the business running. Are you able to sort of give any sort of details about what you've had to do, please?
Yes, I think the main thing is that we have taken advantage of every available scheme open to us. We certainly used the furlough scheme, the job retention scheme. We're a team of 80 based over 2 offices, one in Norwich and one in Edinburgh. And at the time a furlough was introduced, we furloughed 50 of the 80 staff, managed to keep 80 of our team in the business. Thankfully, we've done a great job, and we've managed to turn that around so that we've now got 50 back in the business and 30 currently furloughed. We took advantage of the bank loan that was available that we're going to we will be using. And again, yes, every available we deferred payments that we had. And so I think we've done everything we possibly can. We're very lucky. We get some great advice from our internal accounts team, but also from external advisors that we use.
And if I may, I'm just going to jump in. One thing, just you've mentioned obviously the furlough scheme there. Has that been, is that sort of, dare I say it, has that been a saving grace to the business?
Oh, massively. Our industry is already it's facing huge job losses. Biggest production companies in the country have already gone into administration, and had the furlough scheme not been available to us, it would have. I'm afraid the story would have been a lot more challenging than it currently is.
And in terms of sort of following the relaxation and sort of the attempt to sort of get the economy and everything sort of re-going and everyone sort of reopening, how have you managed that? Has that been a smooth process or a learning process like it has, I assume, for all businesses?
Yeah, so we've like every business, this famous word of pivoting your business to do something new. So whereas we would have been building staging live events and building exhibition stands, all of those projects have basically been turned into virtual events. So I'm very lucky that we have a team that look after we were already doing it, but we're basically creating a whole new business overnight. All of our live events are now virtual, and we've received, thankfully, a great uptake. But we're all in this. We're all learning, to be perfectly honest, and I'm an honest businessman. We're all learning as we go along, because we just didn't predict this immediate change.
Yes.
And relying on the great people that we have in our businesses, it's certainly something I've been very grateful to the team around me, because they have stepped up to deliver when they really had to.
And your sort of key clients have remained loyal?
Oh, massively. In fact, we are very lucky. We have some amazing blue chip companies that we work with, and they are very understanding of what we are trying to achieve as a business. But they've also been very accepting of using us to do the virtual events. So that's great. But they're facing their own challenges. So the indications that we're getting from the majority of our clients is that they don't see any return to normal in terms of doing live events until well into next year. Some of them are even talking about September next year. So from our point of, from a business point of view, this is here to stay, and so we have to do something. That's why we're pivoting our business so that it's effectively a far more digitally based business than it already was.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned about sort of every day is a learning day, so to speak, in this current climate that we're in. Does that sort of make you think differently, just about sort of the future business planning, for yourselves and where you're going to be going?
Yes, I mean, whilst I hold massively on to the hope that we will be going back to do live events in the future, in the short term, my business has seen a sudden increase in dealing with digital work. And so we are actually now, we're in a strange position where we've got teams which have no work, and then a digital team that is hugely busy. And we are looking to both upskill existing staff, but also potentially bringing in teams either on a short-term contract or freelance, as our industry is very used to doing.
And you touched on your staff and everything else, sort of mental well-being. How was that sort of factored into sort of dealing with all your staff, being some are on furlough and working from home, or completely different scale, sort of landscape to be working in?
So I myself, from those first dark days of losing the projects just falling away, I had very dark moments myself where I would go outside, look up into the sky and think, when is this all going to end? And I've had in my family, my own father has suffered very badly with mental health, so it has been something that I've been very aware of. I have been massively describing this as a roller coaster of emotions. And I think we've recognised that everybody in our team, we all have good days and we all have bad days. And it's about understanding that this is the thing that we're all going through. I very early on in the process, I met up with a client of mine who recommended a very, very, very nice lady called Sonia Mackay, who we engaged to hold an online course for about an hour, where our team could log on to a Zoom call with her, and she did a stress resilience webinar for us, which was just received really, really well. And I probably admit that we should be doing more of that. But I do feel that we definitely recognise that mental health is something that our teams are dealing with.
Yeah, yeah. And are you managing? And I appreciate it's difficult, and I think it's difficult for everybody. The people and the staff that were put onto the furlough scheme. Are you managing to sort of keep in a regular enough contact with them, just sort of keep them updated about what's happening with the business and things, or is it, like all things, a bit of a challenge?
It is a challenge. My big thing is to trying to reduce the anxiety of those people in the business and those outside the business. So we committed to the stage every month we held a Zoom call where all of our teams could log into, and I gave a very frank, open, honest update of where the business was, and that's something that we have done throughout. We are, I'm not going to go into great detail, but we are facing challenges at the moment, and that would be unfair for me to do that. But yeah, so the people who are out on furlough, they are obviously facing their own individual challenges, and likewise the people in the business, they feel probably some guilt that they are the ones left, or they are in the business and their friends and colleagues are out of the business. So there's challenges on both sides, but I think communication has been key, individually in their teams, because we have quite a diverse range of teams in the business. We've asked their individual directors to speak to them, they have had coffee mornings and that sort of thing. But again, I don't know whether it was almost, the guys out on furlough, you felt almost, we were told that we shouldn't be in too much contact, and then, by the government, it was a difficult thing to know how much contact you could have with those people without, I suppose, stepping over the boundaries of what was acceptable. But I think we have thankfully had some very nice comments back from the team across the board that we've looked after them, done as much as we can for them.
Yeah, there's some couple of nice positives there. Any other sort of two other standout positives over the last 6 months?
For me, massively, it's been the support that both I've received from friends and colleagues, and literally, I was going to recount a story where back very early on in this situation, I received a phone call from he is a friend, but I haven't known him very long, who's a pig farmer in Norfolk, who phoned up me out of the blue and said, Ian, I've been thinking about you. I just worried about where you are with your business. And that one phone call meant a huge amount to me personally. And then subsequently on the back of that, I've tried to do that to other people. So I've been helping we have a lot of freelance support that we use in the business. So I've tried to reach out to people that I think might need a bit of support. I've helped another business that is going through some challenges. I've spoken to one of the directors of that business on a regular basis just to check in on him, to make sure he's asking questions about what we're doing. And I think that, again, that collaboration and communication between people is crucial at the moment, just to share the challenges that we're all facing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously, it's very clear that your business, much like ours, really, that we've had to implement quite a few changes, and yours a huge number by the sound of things. Is there anything which you have now put in place which you think actually, we're going to keep that in because actually that works really well? We've made that change. We're going to keep with that process or whatever it might be going forward, irrespective of coronavirus?
Well, bizarrely, we've probably talked as a directorship team. We've probably talked more regularly than we have ever before. So 9 o'clock every morning, I have a call with my directorship team, and we discuss what's going on, the challenges of the day, the week. I wouldn't like, not necessarily saying that we will do that when we get back to face every day, but certainly that communication is something that I would like to keep going. And then that recognition of understanding that people do need support with mental health. We will definitely be engaging with Sonia on a more regular basis in the future, and recognise that it's something that we all face.
With schools heading back to opening and children heading back to school, and I know you've got children back at school. I mean, if you were doing the government school report, what would you how would you call the government so far to date?
I mean, obviously, we're all dealing with something. The favourite word, unprecedented times. I certainly don't want to get into a political debate. The furlough scheme, from my point of view, did what it was designed to do, which was as a job retention scheme. Individually, across, there's been a lot of calling out from sectors of businesses like the aviation industry that are calling out for that specific help for their industry. I equally have that. I don't know how you can pick out individual business ranges that need that specific help. I just think it is a very, very difficult thing to pick out one sector of business that should get more help than another. I've just been speaking. Actually, funny enough, I've just come off a meeting speaking to our own our bank manager. It is interesting what they're saying about the potential. Our immediate comment was, of course, we're going to be paying for this for years to come. And his attitude was slightly different, which was not what I was expecting. So he seems to think that actually what the government have set up is something that from his work perspective, is that something that it is achievable. We can keep on this road to borrowing money in the way that they're doing. So he was more positive about it than I was expecting.
That's great. Interesting. Final question, I guess, then, Ian, please, is what's your view on what the future holds, if you like, specifically for yourselves at Production Bureau?
I'm desperately looking to get my team back into the office in some way, shape or form, if we can do, bearing in mind the rising numbers and the fact that we might go back into another lockdown. But I think we need to be back together. So November the 1st is what I'm describing as a bit of a reset day for our business. And that would be when we try and get people back into the office in some way, shape or another. And then for the future, I mean, my goal is to save jobs. In terms of me, I'm in a very fortunate position, very established business. I understand that other businesses are in totally different incarnations and steps along the way of where they are with their own businesses. But from our point of view, we have a very successful business that's been established for a very long time. I've just got to keep a business afloat that can be sustainable for the future. We have some very nice contracts that predicted, that will go on for 5-year terms if we are, if the job continues to, as they do, continue to happen. So we've got some very long-term contracts, which is a great business model for us. So I've just got to keep it sustainable, basically.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for being open and honest and frank. It's great to hear from you. Every confidence Production Bureau will continue growing and growing over the years to come. And thank you very much for joining us today. It's much appreciated. It's nice to hear. Nice to hear from you.
Thanks very much, and well done to Arnold Keys for putting something like, and you obviously adapting and doing something different for local business, which I think is admirable. I wish you well with the rest of your interviews.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Ian.
Thanks. All the best.